Hey, we're, okay, let's start this meeting. Sorry for being a little bit late. Roll call, please.
Ware,
Here.
Castinello,
Here.
Pater. Here. Larson.
Here.
Schneider.
Here.
Ramirez. Here. Morris.
Here.
Okay, let's wipe out the Pledge of Allegiance.
I don't think you meant it that way.
That way, though. Okay, let's start this meeting. Sorry for being a little bit late. Roll call, please.
For which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
We need a motion to go back into closed
Yes,
session.
I do.
Mr. Mayor, I move the council convene in closed session to discuss the following. As permitted by Virginia Code Section 2.23711A8, consultation with legal counsel regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel relating to the MOU with Haymarket Hotel Ventures, TOT taxes generally, and economic development.
A second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Let's move on in.
I'll get the.
Okay, welcome back to the show. If I could go around for attestation.
Mr. Mayor, I move the council certify that the closed session just concluded, nothing was discussed, except the matters specifically identified in the motion to convene in closed session and lawfully permitted to be discussed in a closed session under the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as cited in that motion.
A second.
Okay, motion and a second. Round table, please.
Ware,
Aye.
Castinello,
Yes.
Pater.
Yes.
Larson.
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Ramirez.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Okay, before we continue on, I got a point of question to throw at the dais. Do we need Martin around for the charter?
Oh, yeah. Can we do
I'd like to move that item up first.
That'd be nice.
As a matter of, yeah, I think we should just do that as a matter of
Okay,
efficiency.
so yeah, if we could adjust our agenda to put the charter up front.
I'm hoping it's straightforward.
Without any objection.
No objection.
No.
No objection.
No objection.
Okay.
5 minutes tops.
So is the new schedule in effect, sir? With Martin?
Yes.
Okay, good. Martin knows that?
Yes.
Yes.
Just want to be sure.
Okay. So let's go with the charter first.
You've got an interesting charter.
What's in here is nice and easy, though. What you were, I guess, looking at from, I guess, 2015 was a little bit more of a big discussion.
I would say ambitious.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you can take out a couple of things. The most ambitious thing in there was the joint BZA with the county. And, you know, that is an issue that I don't think you really have. You had, last time you had a BZA hearing, everybody showed up that was on the BZA. So it's not a, you know, the issue was we were worried we wouldn't have enough people to serve on the BZA. That issue has gone away, so you can just take that part out. The current charter that you have has a lot of provisions in there that were current in the 1950s and 60s, like your own municipal court and that sort of thing, and none of that will fly today. And so if you were to send in to the General Assembly a draft or a charter amendment that has just changing the May to November language in there, they would say, well, we can't pass this because it's got all these other things in it that we need to change. And so then you would be asking the General Assembly to operate on your charter there, and you may not like what modifications they
The way it was
put in.
presented to me by the Prince William delegation was change nothing but the dates, and that's all that will be changed, and it will be done. Open up anything else, and they're gonna look at it, because it has been amended since '55. And they
Sure.
just left the language in there because it's not enforceable.
Well, there have been places that had experience, different experience with that.
City of Pound, or the town of Pound.
Town of Pound's a special case. But there, who was it? Stanton, I think, went in one time and asked to have their elections be moved to November in odd-numbered years, and they got November in even-numbered years. So, not exactly what they asked for. You don't actually have to change your charter to have the election dates changed. The only thing that really would need a charter amendment to move forward on is the dates of appointment for officers. Yeah, I saw that. But, there are a lot of cleanup provisions that need to be done to the code of Virginia, not just to charters, because currently it says your organizational meeting is in July. Well,
He reset that.
well, okay, but in the general statute, what I'm saying is, for everybody that's not going to do a charter amendment, the current state code says that you have an organizational meeting in July, even though you're required to have the elections in November. So, and with regard to the appointments, most places just have moved to a model where the town manager is the sole appointee, and everybody else responds to that manager, rather than having divided authority. Because if you have the chief of police and the clerk and the treasurer all appointed directly by the council without being responsible to the town manager, then you have a divided line of command, and so you create conflicts for yourself by having the system that it kind of currently exists. So there's a strong reason to move to a strong town manager form of government, in my opinion.
My understanding is that we're almost mandated to get this in now. The General Assembly wants all of the charters changed for some reason, for the election dates.
I haven't heard that.
That's what I'm hearing in my contacts in Richmond. They said the simpler the better, and we should take advantage of the fact that it's a short session this term.
Yeah.
Because they're not gonna have time to be. The indication I got was the Charter Subcommittee is gonna meet once at the very beginning of the session and take care of all of it in about 5 minutes on almost a consent agenda sort of deal.
Okay.
And kick it through to the main committee and pass them all through and be done with it, because there's only a handful left.
That's kind of what I heard.
Well, I haven't heard that. I mean, I know that Occoquan went last year, or I guess this year, to get their charter amendment, and they did, make some cleanup changes to it, more than just the change of the dates, because there were a lot of provisions in there. I think you have some of the same things, like you're able to, it specifically calls out the ability to banish vagrants, which is not a thing that you can do.
If you want to take out the outdated sections
Uh-huh.
and excise those just by red line,
Yeah,
I don't have a problem doing that, but we're also a bit under a time crunch because of the limitation this year on bills that can be carried by the delegates because of the short session.
well, yeah, I mean, I'm sorry.
No, so, wait a minute.
Like the Justice of the Peace section.
Yeah, no, I get that. I understand, it's obsolete.
Yeah.
Okay, I get that, and that makes sense. My question is, the session isn't until January, right?
Correct.
Okay. And if we submit an amended charter early, right?
It
Can
gets us
we-
an early number, which gets us prior, which will, in theory, get us on one of the first agendas of the,
In January.
in January of the subcommittee.
So
But, last question, sorry, Mark. So, if we submit it, when are we thinking of submitting it? August? September?
I don't think you can get August, because you don't have time to advertise a public hearing for your August
Okay.
first
No, I
meeting.
understand we got to do the public hearing, but when are we thinking we're going to do
You could
this?
do it at that September meeting, absolutely.
When is the expectation, Bob, that you're thinking?
ASAP is what I've been told.
Can we submit one and then amend it later if we decide to?
Why don't we prove that first before we move
We could,
on?
well,
Now, that's Bob's opinion,
we
but the
need-
attorney doesn't,
what we
said he
need to
doesn't know that.
submit is a draft to the delegate
Okay.
to start the discussions with legislative services.
So it seems to me, and I get what you're saying, I'm concerned about opening it all up, but
So am I.
we may have no choice.
Well, if we're just excising dead stuff and the language is already in the charter that we don't have that authority,
Okay, then let's get Martin to redline it for us. Let's get a copy of the red line, including
yeah.
your changes.
All right, here's the big one. The mayor's veto. Do you want to leave that
I
in?
don't want to touch it,
Okay.
me personally.
But why would we change that?
It's a pretty unusual feature these days.
Is it really? Mm-hmm. So is that
But I
from?
don't have a vote otherwise.
Wait a minute, too
I mean,
much.
You do have a vote, but
Well,
there is,
the
there is-
tiebreaker
you're
vote.
opening up an opportunity for corruption with you having that veto. We've seen it before.
It only takes a 2/3 vote
To change
to
it.
overrule the veto, which is what's required to pass a motion anyway.
So
So,
you tried that with what we had before. What we had before was 5 silent members on the council that would not vote against the mayor, even when the mayor went that direction.
I don't have a problem with the
I
veto.
don't have a problem with it either. Somebody else might, but I feel as long as I got a voice, then
I don't have an issue with it.
Well, while we're talking charter,
yeah.
let's talk about how you overturn a veto, okay? Is it the number of council members present at the meeting where we get the 2/3, or is it the entire council?
The entire council, I think, is the way it's written.
Yeah. That makes more sense.
The entire, so it would be out of 7, okay. See where I'm going?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
then the
5
mayor-
votes rather than 4.
Wait a minute, the mayor does the mayor have a vote
No.
on that?
The mayor does not have a
No,
vote.
no.
It's he's a
But
member
it's
of
considered a
council.
member of council.
So it would be 4 council members.
That's what I need to clarify.
Right.
It would take 5, it would take 5 council members to overrule.
Mm-hmm.
On a supermajority, or on a majority, right?
See, this is what I need to clarify,
don't
because this is
know.
I haven't,
always
I
a
haven't
question.
looked at it in a while.
2/3 is 4.
66%.
It's 4.
One,
4 of 6, but if you're looking at 2/3 of 7, that's 5
Then it's
votes.
5.
Then it's 5, that's my point. This has been something that's been an issue.
Even though I can't vote,
I was just saying,
I still am a head count.
That's the way, if I'm
Way it's
recalling
worded.
it correctly, the phrase is of the members of the body. You are a member of the body.
so you do count, Ken.
Yeah, but he doesn't vote.
It's
doesn't
5 of
count.
7?
That's my recollection, I'm sorry. And
So-
Kim's nodding her head, I think we're right on that point.
So in
We
order to.
we ran into this problem with the sale of public property years before when my single vote could have killed the sale of a property because there was a vacant seat.
Why would it be 5 of 7 if the
Because you
mayor
requires a
doesn't have
supermajority to
vote?
overrule.
Because it's the definition is the body.
which is the body, which is the body of the whole
Do
council.
we have that charter here?
So during the
Yeah,
quorum,
we've got it.
the quorum for a regular meeting, is it of the body or of the council members?
Depends on the vote.
No, just a regular
Just-
quorum
he's
for a
just talking
meeting,
about
just for a
quorum.
regular meeting.
It'd be 4.
Meeting is 4.
4.
That's not a simple majority.
That's a simple majority, not a supermajority.
Okay.
I mean, I can pull up the charter. I mean,
Yeah, I would. You see, Ken is the Eleanor Holmes Norton of Haymarket, right? I mean, it's true, right? I mean, you don't have a vote, but you can vote on committee.
So, but going back to, if Bob's friends in Richmond is saying that we need to get it in a certain time, do we need to confirm if that's true? Or are we just gonna take Bob's
If you want
word
to
for
call,
it?
if you want to call Danica, go ahead.
For what? I mean, the attorney, so we have an attorney.
It's the delegate that's going to carry it for us. Those are her instructions. If you don't want to believe me, that's up to you.
So we're going to signal to our delegate that we're going to get something in, right?
Yes.
And we need to public hear it, so we need to get it, so we need to work back and review this thing redlined and get back to Martin and say, this is what we want as a council. And then we submit it when we're ready.
Can the delegate provide something in writing? What? Or no? Are we gonna take, or is it something where we have the delegate to the whole council or to the mayor to say it? Or we just say, okay, the delegate said to get it in August?
Did the delegate call you, Ken?
The delegate called me. She said that we need to get it in. I said, is the August timeframe okay? And she said, oh, that's fine, that's pretty early. So
Okay.
I think she's looking at more like September or October.
Fine, it gives us time to play with it.
Yep.
Does that lessen our chances of success the more we tinker with it?
That's a fair question.
That's my concern, is that if the goal is to, if we a demonstrated need that we have, you're saying not necessarily, it's a better to talk about the reappointments than necessarily the dates.
And while you're doing the reappointments, I don't know why you would pick March anyway. I mean, it never made much sense to me to have it in September with the May election.
Okay.
I think that is an artifact of your elections were originally in June. And then people would take office in August, and then the following meeting in September is when you would make your appointment. So, and then when it moved to May, then it was a little bit out of sync, but not too bad. So moving into March doesn't make that much sense. It seemed to me to make sense that you would make your appointments at your organizational meeting in January.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Can we be ambiguous and just say default to the state code, whatever the dates identified in the state code?
Yeah.
And that way
Take
we
it
never
all
have,
out. Take it all out.
take it all out and just defer to that, and then not have to worry about amending it every time there's a change. I feel like we're in this gray area between, we've gone past our original terms to the November, sort of no man's land in terms of our terms. But,
Or, because I don't think it's gonna get changed back. November is gonna be,
Bob, did you hear my point?
so,
Just take all the, I'm sorry, Chris, take all the dates out and just default to the state code, like we did with the zoning ordinance.
what's the state code as far as appointments?
Not the appointments, but the election dates, and saying that the appointments will
No, I think
align
you
with
have to be
whatever the.
specific.
So,
I wouldn't be in favor of that, no.
but if it's November election, why can't we go with the first official meeting of just the same way as appointing the vice mayor, right?
That's the way I amended it.
The first official,
No, it says March, I thought, when you, with the red line you sent me.
It's for the appointments,
what-
because the
that's what I'm talking
appointments,
about.
the appointments were I just modeled it on the schedule that we had from the existing one, where it was 2 months after we assumed office, we made we did the appointments. I'm not beholden to that date, but I just want to remain consistent and keep it
Right.
2 months after we assumed office.
I think your elections were originally in June, so it was actually a month after the new council took office.
Well, we've always taken office July 1, and did the appointments in September, so that was July to August to September was 2 months. So I just moved it from September to March, because March was 2 months after the new council would assume office on January 1.
And that gives you time for, if it's a new council,
So it's a new council, it gives you time to be acclimated and get clued in.
Right.
What is the likelihood that there'll be negative feedback on this change and they'll change it back?
To what?
who's going to change it back?
Change what?
Change our local election back to allow us to go back to June?
As
Or May, I'm
as
sorry.
long as there is a certain member of the state senate in office, who I will not name, and a couple of delegates, there is no chance it's going to happen.
Okay. I'm thinking like the proffer bill, right? That's been.
There was an attempt to do it last year, and it died horribly.
Well, I don't know about Harvard.
They
but
killed
did
it with
die.
fire.
Killed it with fire.
It was bloody. The point I made, Bob, when you stepped out was, what is the likelihood that, that this would be delayed with the more tinkering that we do? So,
The more tinkering you do, the more they're going to likely look at it, scrutinize it, if they scrutinize it at all. My personal guess is they're not going to scrutinize it one little bit. They're just going to take it and go, it's a charter amendment.
Right.
do separate charter amendments?
That will draw attention.
Okay. Just asking.
For the Occoquan charter amendment this year, I watched the hearing, and the mayor showed up, and there was like one question. And, he made a quick statement about why we wanted to do this and modernized it. Great. We pass that along, move on to the next one. It was pretty short and sweet.
Right. Ken, you ready?
And most of them had no discussion at all, because I watched a bunch of those.
To go down there?
So I guess the point, the investment right now is Martin's time and letting us look at a
Red line.
red line. That's sort of where we're at right now. Okay.
Yeah, do you just want to get rid of the obnoxious, obsolete stuff? I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
All right.
Is that August 1st too quick for you, Martin? We're going to look at that in September.
You know,
August 1st is next week.
That's next week, yeah, that's one
Well, then
week.
our August work
Martin, if
session?
you'd like, I can do it.
yeah, well, if you want to,
It's not, I know which parts
Gonna
are
red
already
line you one
obsolete. And then
This is
submit it to you.
ridiculous.
work for me.
He's trying to save you money, Chris.
And we mentioned the
Full
veto.
document.
He's
We're
gonna
all
try to
good with
save-
the veto?
Huh? No, I'm just the obsolete sections like
Okay.
the justice of the peace and
Right.
the vagrancy. You know, thanks for pointing out the vagrancy. I didn't realize that was.
Okay, there were two things we discussed tonight, though. We already said the veto won't happen. How about appointments? We're not going to touch the appointments. We're still going to appoint
I like
the
the 2
clerk
months.
and the,
I like the 2 months cooling
well,
period.
that's a good date, but I mean, are we going to appoint the town manager and let the town manager handle the treasurer? Or are we going to appoint all these positions?
Well, here's the thing. So we're going to be doing appointments in September based on where we are now.
Correct.
We have to, yeah.
All right, and whatever they do with the charter amendment probably won't happen.
Until July 1 of next year.
Right. So then whoever's in council, I guess, it'd be 2 more years.
We need a transitional provision.
You really think so?
Be July 1 of next.
Statutes take effect on July 1 following passage unless the General
Which would
Assembly
mean it
dictates
would simply
otherwise.
be a 6-month,
It's aligned with.
6 month,
It's an easy one line.
6 months before they could do the appointment on a one-time basis, so do you really need to include a transition clause?
Well, no, you wouldn't.
Okay.
Why don't we do that? Mr. Weir will mark it up, and then I'll take a look at it, and if, you could go ahead and authorize the advertisement of the public hearing, we'll just need to have the
The draft.
in hand before you advertise. Now, and.
We've got time to do that next week, right?
Yeah.
Move the advertisement?
Yeah, you can put that on the agenda for
And then it would be
August
for the
1st
September
to
regular
set up.
meeting?
Yeah.
Public hearing on the work session in August, or the regular meeting in September.
And in the meantime, we could forward a draft so that we can get the mechanisms in place so we can get the low number,
Okay.
so that we don't potentially lie at the bottom of the calendar and then not get handled because they don't get to everything within the short session. That's the intent of getting the low number and getting it in quickly.
All right. You're telling us you've seen inside the sausage factory.
Yes, he has.
Yes. It's a nice messy place. That way legislative services is done with it early and we don't have to screw with it.
Okay, so when will the red line be drafted
By
and
tomorrow
reviewed?
afternoon.
I can review it, whenever I get it.
Because we just need the draft by the time the public announcement is published, right? When does a public announcement need to be published?
Well, you'll have to consider that, you'll consider the red line next week.
Right.
And then we'll,
Yeah, public hearing will be in the work
September.
session. August work session.
no, just do it at the September meeting.
I do the regular meeting.
Then I would need to have.
We're gonna vote on it then too, though?
We could.
The ad would go in, I need the ad to go to the paper by August 15th.
So we'll
That's
put
plenty of time.
authorization of the public hearing notice on the agenda next Monday, the 1st.
Finalize the draft next Monday
Okay,
and just kick it up. And the simpler we keep it, the better. I think it just makes life easier for everybody.
so you understand that schedule, Emily?
Yes.
Okay,
The advertisement has to be 10 days in advance.
Okay.
but kind of longer since we're restricted to the publications. So it's actually longer, but.
Nope.
Nope, just one.
Clear as mud.
Okay, we done with that then? Then I guess if there's no objection, I will dismiss our
Excuse,
legal,
not dismiss.
Thank you.
it's our
Thank you, sir.
legal counsel.
Non-essential
Martin.
personnel.
Go have some supper.
Can you check that thermostat in there?
Are you guys hot? It's the humidity coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just stuffy because the door.
Well, thank you, Martin.
I thank you.
You want to just close it, and if we see somebody, we'll,
We see somebody want to do that.
yeah.
Anybody wants to come in at this hour, they're nuts.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Let's try, it's already 8 o'clock. Let's try to wipe this out. Financial report?
So you'll have your financial report here that Roberto normally gives to you guys. If you have any questions, either myself or one of our finance liaisons can help you through it. Otherwise, Roberto will be back Monday night.
Anybody have any questions?
No, let me sign all of
Okay,
this. Okay?
we'll move on.
Um,
RFP update?
Next item, so our town engineer is actively working through checking the references for the RFP that we received. So we're very hopeful that here shortly, we will have a finalized report to present to council so that you guys can review everything. Her report, the references, and the RFP to make a decision on next steps forward. And if we want to award.
Question.
Answer.
How long is that going to take now?
I'm hoping that we wrap up the reference check in the next week or two so that you will have an update next week on where it stands, everything to you by the August work session, which I believe is around the 28th of August.
Okay.
Can I just follow up with, I think we need a timeline.
Yeah.
We need something in writing. It's too vague being reviewed.
Yep. dragging out.
There's no measurables.
Okay?
Yes, I agree. We're chomping at the bit on this thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's even possible to present to council what has taken place and the timeline of what has transpired. Because I think we've gone 4 months already, at a minimum 4 months.
We just received the RFP on June 13th.
But before that, leading up to that, there was a long lag.
The RFP was noticed for 45 days as council agreed on. So we had to wait 45 days to accept them in. We got it in on July 13th, opened it, and then Katie's been working on the review of the document, everything they presented to include the financials, and now is checking the references.
Okay, I may be off. I thought Bob threw a hissy fit sometime in January.
Yeah, I did.
That was most likely, not saying you threw a hissy fit, that was most likely in regards to if it was a, what kind of RFP we went out for, whether it was design, build,
Right.
or if it was the other version.
Conventional.
So we had that long discussion because we were supposed to move on this back in the fall. However, during our transition period, when it came back up in January, we collectively, staff and council, decided there was a better way forward, and that's what did take us some time.
Okay, any more questions?
Nope.
Okay, next thing, proposed real estate tax refund.
I'm just gonna bring this up as an info item for everybody, what I'm thinking about bringing forward in the coming months. I doubt it'll be next month, it'll probably be in September, although it might be next month. We are probably going to run a $500,000 surplus for the fiscal year we just closed out, and we're gonna have to accommodate that surplus and determine what we're gonna spend it on. The surplus comes largely as a result of our being very, very, very conservative last year during the budget, and as a result of the unknowns with respect to COVID, understating what the revenue stream was going to be. I'm going to suggest, again, possibly next month, it might take until September, that we take roughly $250,000 out of the surplus, refund it back to the real property owners in the town, because that's the only way that we can refund money, is through the real estate taxes, so that everybody who paid real estate taxes would get what percentage of the total real estate tax they paid to the town back from that $250,000. I think Roberto's initial estimates were anywhere from 180 to 300 and 300 and something per unit,
Something like that.
absent, with the exception of the commercial properties, which are a different story. And then I think this is part of a larger program, spending program that we're going to have to deal with in the coming months. Which will leave us with another $250,000 in surplus, which I think, if I understood you correctly, we are going to suggest that we earmark to a specific CIP project. I think the inclination that I've got right now, the proposal I'm going to probably make is to take that money and sink it into the park building for the first phase of structural rehab. The basement's got to be fixed. The water issue has to be addressed in the basement, a couple of other things, some other structural issues before we can start turning it around. And that comes on top of, we're supposed to get our first tranche of proffers from the Van Meter property next week, next couple of weeks, next week or so. They're going to start turning in proffers. And we've already discussed this with Roberto, and the proffer monies are going to be segregated much like the ARPA money into their particular fields, because you've got proffers for Parks and Rec, Public Safety, Transportation, Fire and Rescue, Town Admin, and Schools. And in order to spend any of those proffer monies, it's going to require a resolution by the town, and it has to be tied to a CIP expenditure. You can't spend proffer funds on operational expenses. It's got to be tied to a CIP. So we're going to probably come back with a plan
That's up to Roberto.
September, October, November. Well, we got to work out.
September, I would shoot for.
Yeah, I think I'd be curious for some thoughts on this, on how to do this. We're looking at roughly $144,000 for Parks and Rec, $10,500 for Public Safety, $144,000 for Transportation, $37,000 for Fire and Rescue on top of our already increased Fire and Rescue stipend from the state, and $6,500 for the admin. With things like Public Safety and Fire and Rescue, if I understood our conversation, I think what the suggestion of the finance liaisons is going to be aggregate that money with what eventually comes in from the Melodon proffers, which are at an even higher scale, and that eliminates some of our CIP expenditures, maybe not this fiscal year, but the next fiscal year in terms of a cruiser, and we'll get more bang for the buck with the fire department. And we can also take, in the case of the Parks and Rec proffers, because the Van Meter proffers are going to arrive significantly prior to the Melodon proffers, we can take the $144,000 that we're going to get, excuse me, not the 100, no, I was thinking, yeah, it's both of them, $144,000. The $144,000 in transportation proffers credited against the sidewalk project, which then frees up the ARPA money that we were going to use on the sidewalk, puts it back into the ARPA pool, so that we have more flexibility with that money. Since we have to use it for transportation, let's use the money that's required for the transportation, relieve our ARPA designation on that. It gives us flexibility to use it on other CIP projects. Same thing with Parks and Rec. We can then sink that $144,000 into the building on top of the $250,000 that we use that I'm going to suggest we use from surplus, and that should get us pretty close to getting an operational or somewhat operational park building.
Yeah. Well, one thing I need you guys to think about, first of all, is, we're already thinking about the money that we're going to have, where it's got to go. We got to identify how we want to use the park building in the first place. Are we going through with the design features that we had in the initial packet that was put together about 8 years ago? You know,
I would
these are
suggest-
some of the things we'll probably have to toss
I
around.
would suggest just making it structurally sound is going to probably,
My recommendation would be that I'm planning on coming up with a proposal to present to the council of a simplified, here's what we envision the property being, and it's something that we can discuss. If you guys want to discuss that at the August work session, we can go ahead and do that,
Yes.
come to an agreement, and then that'll help for your budget planning as well.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
but we do need to address the structure sooner rather than later before it
Yes.
deteriorates more than it already has.
100%.
Looks like we got a lot of questions.
Chris?
Yes, Bob, thank you for that. Two questions concerning the real estate tax refund, which is the first point that you brought up.
Okay.
Number one, why would it take until September to push it forward? And number two, before you answer, is it possible to dissect the $500,000 surplus and go ahead and designate the $250,000 that you're suggesting from the get-go, and then we can deal with the rest, maybe September?
We can do that.
Well, I just wanted to know if there are some restrictions for. that
No,
would
no,
prevent us from doing
I was just waiting for more firm numbers. We know what the bare minimum's going to be, which is
450.
That's a
question, too.
I understand. I just wanted to know,
Is he with us?
because it seemed as if,
No.
from the
I've got the
presentation, it seemed like all of these things are gonna be generated September, October. So my
No.
question is, are we being prevented from acting on one half?
No, we know it's going to be a bare minimum of 451, but we don't have all of the June revenues in yet.
Correct.
We haven't collected,
That's why we're waiting.
we haven't collected meals tax, we haven't collected sales tax, we've still got some outstanding B-poll. Can we go ahead and segregate the 250 as early as August? Absolutely.
Okay.
It's just a matter of how much is going to be left.
And it's okay if 49% goes towards our
Or more.
real
It
estate?
could be, yeah,
or
it could be,
51 balance?
it could end up being,
Okay.
275,000
Just-
goes to CIP.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand your chain of thought, because first of all, it was all pooled together. I just wanted to make sure that we have no restrictions.
Good question.
Now, it's a budget surplus that's it's got some encumbrances on it. That's why it's going to be, like, the TOT carryover, which is, of course, I'd have to figure it out, like 25 grand,
Something like that.
something like that. That portion of the surplus cannot be included in the calculation.
Okay.
Do we have any other encumbered? I don't think so.
That's a Roberto.
We took the fire out because that's already been spent.
Right.
I think the only encumbered funds left were the TOT taxes.
The only other thing we were moving forward was event monies from farmers.
Yeah, but from a standpoint of what the surplus consists of, that portion of the surplus that consists of unexpended TOT funds, we can't do it with. That has to be backed out of the total.
Can I make a suggestion then? And if it's okay with council to not wait till September, but maybe have you and Roberto with the finance committee go ahead and look at.
You want a
maybe-
proposal for August? We can do it.
That's what I'm thinking. Why wait if we know, if, I
August
can,
work
I'm
session?
just speaking on, just as one voice, that this is a
Do you want it
direction
at the
I would
August
support.
meeting or the August work
I
session?
think the
Let's
August
do
work
August
session.
Work session.
Okay, all right, that's easy. August
That make
meeting would
sense?
be a little tough, but August work session would be.
Does that make
easy.
sense?
Yes, it does.
It's fine with me.
Because then we're just kicking it down the road, and we don't need to kick $250,000 down the road. Maybe the other areas.
No, we've got enough liquid assets in place that we don't,
Families could use.
yeah, we can move it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I was just trying to be conservative with it and get the final numbers in place. And we should have better numbers
Yeah, hopefully the rest of the council agrees, but that would be my suggestion.
Thursday.
I think it's a good one.
We're talking as a thing decided. I would first like to understand more about the rationale for the real, and we talked about it a little bit earlier today, that we had an unexpected surplus. But with all these things, I think we need to be deliberate and make it clear why it would be helpful if you could put a memo together
I can do that.
outlining everything that you're here so that people can sort of understand
I think
the nuance
I
and
think there's a
pieces.
number
So-
of good reasons to do
Okay.
it.
With the budget discussion, we don't necessarily go through all those reasons tonight, but if you could sort of walk us through that. The budget discussion, I think I remember being concerned about some of the uncertainty, economic uncertainty. But if right now, do we want to raise our reserves? Or what's the amount that we have to have on hand? What do we call that value?
Minimum's 10%, but we've got significantly higher than that. At
So we're already
30%.
exceeding the recommended amount. So one of the things, let's make sure we're paying ourselves first.
Oh, yeah, the other thing
And that-
is, the other portion that I left out, and probably Roberto was better equipped to address, is we are going to eliminate a significant amount of our debt service within the next calendar year. So then we're going to be back in the position where we're not going to be accruing additional debt, we'll be accruing new debt after we retire the old debt. So these larger projects that would be difficult to fund with existing reserves and within the current operational budget, we can go out and seek bond funding for and amortize it over. I'm going to actually suggest we amortize it over a 10-year rate, or 10-year period, given the rates right now. And accomplish those larger functions, so we kick it off, get the contracts done, and then it's just a matter of managing.
In theory, having cash in hand versus the material, versus a project that's 2 or 3 years in the making, I would think most would want to have some cash in hand, given the climate that we're in.
And we're going to have plenty of cash.
At the
on
same
hand.
time, we've walked away from the park deal we're not walked away, we've settled QBE thing. We have an influx of residents that are coming soon. That park project with the sidewalk and everything is going to be pressing. We continue to be successful with the farmer's market with nowhere to park. We have to revisit that discussion. So I feel like we should make sure that we are putting ourselves in the position not to be reactionary, but to be proactive.
I'm glad you said that, because I just gave you phase one of what we're going to suggest. Phase two is going to be that parking lot right there. And the,
Okay, well, that's my next question, is how close are we to finishing the site plan? Because we have a good site plan that could,
Should be done.
Our site plan is currently under review with our outside agencies on second phase of comments, so we're working along on it very well.
gotcha.
And we're working with Roberto on the funding for that to get it done sooner rather than later.
Well, I appreciate the feedback. So it sounds like that's already in the works. We're making.
In terms of organizing where the money's going to come from and how it's going to be paid for.
Okay.
Yes. Now, the question that this council is going to have to ask or answer, and I guess we're going to have to broach this subject at some point in time, is how far do you want to go with the town center project? I'm going to suggest that taking care of the parking lot and the stormwater is phase one and has to be done, and I think, I don't think.
When I say
there's
site
any-
plan, it's for the horizontal. It's not anything to do with the building.
Yeah,
It's
we're going to
the-
have to address the vertical at some point in time.
Correct, but I would agree that was a later phase. So, point being this, if we just set the expectation, people are going to start to expect those refunds over time. So I think if we're clear as to what were the circumstances leading up to this, and whether it's a higher number or a lower number, that memo I think would be helpful to have.
Okay.
Appreciate you guys looking into it, but I feel like we're going to have a significant amount of capital investment in the
yeah.
near term
Oh, yeah.
to stay ahead of our demands. 'cause-
I think we're going to have a significant amount of capital investment within the next, certainly within the next 6 months, and even more within the next calendar year.
Okay.
But that's going to be offset by a significant increase in what are essentially one-time targeted revenue, or one-time constrained revenue sources, i.e., like, for example, the proffers.
Well, they're delivered. There's monies that are
Monies that are
earmarked specifically, that I understand the offset, that it makes sense. We're getting an influx of cash that
we can use immediately and
yes.
clear off the books, because then we don't have to. Otherwise, we're sitting here with all this proffer money that if you don't expend it, and there's no requirement to expend it, I think you're allowed, 5 years before before the applicant can request the refund of the proffer if it's not utilized for the proper function. But if we clear it off, the sooner we clear it off the books is the less time we have to manage it, segregate it, if we just, by resolution expend it on a CIP project and clear it out, that's one last thing we have to worry about when we close the books at the end of the fiscal year?
Okay, so let me say this back to you. We have a surplus due to a number of factors.
Correct.
If we're able to outline that.
And a likely increasing surplus next year.
Okay, then if we're able to put that onto a reasonable outline, I think that would be helpful.
And I think
Thank
what we're going to try and do is program it. It's just,
Okay,
I think we have.
there's a lot of moving parts.
I mean, it's a good problem to have.
so I guess the straw, Mr. Mayor, if I may offer, I guess, it sounds like there's a straw vote on pursuing the real estate
I'm fine with it.
refund is, we have the majority or the consensus of the council that we all want to look at it? Okay.
So you want a memo on that and the CIP stuff, both?
My suggestion would be outlining, here's where we are, here's what led up to this, and here's I don't know that you need to go to a itemized list yet, but something that
No, it just
generally
probably-
describes those
For
monies.
simplicity purposes and transparency, it's probably good itemized, which means we're going to have
Yeah.
a fun meeting on Thursday.
Pretty much a nice list of where our monies are intended to be spent.
Yes,
Okay.
I think that's going to be
We
really
can even
important.
give you program numbers, I think.
I mean, when you look at this parking lot, for instance, I don't know if too many people know, but the ballpark figure is what, 2 million, right?
Is that for everything, or just the,
I don't
That's
think
for
so.
curbing, stormwater management,
No.
paving.
I think we'll need to get an updated number on that when they finalize the site.
I think it's significantly lower than that.
Because they've modified a good bit of,
And a
2
lot of
million
it's already
sounds like
done.
when they were doing the building expansion and,
there is a change in the building expansion. There's also a change in the type of pavement. We had previously had impervious, which is a bit more of a hefty price.
And some of the stormwater infrastructure's already been taken care of as part of the other project, which was
Correct.
part of the original quote. For example, the stuff on, at the intersection of Washington and Jefferson. So I think the number is significantly lower than that.
okay, thanks.
Let's talk about process for a second. Uh-oh.
My favorite word.
Process. Okay, so it seems to me that we have to look at this somewhat unconstrained initially, as a group. We can certainly, and I have no problem sitting down with Bob and set the stage. So it's a beginning point to talk about what we want to spend the money on going forward. I mean, we do have a CIP. We know we have a lot of demands, and somehow I think we need to just unconstrain that first and then prioritize it. I mean, strategically, geez, I'm going to speak for Ken here a little bit, a little strategic planning. And I think in the long run, it'll help us be more efficient in our spending. That might, I think people need to understand we have two different kind of pots of money here we're talking about. As Bob said, the proffers are a one-off. Once that's gone, that's gone.
They're also constrained.
And they are constrained, very much constrained. But we can shift things around. As he says, there's a lot of moving parts. We can lay that all out. But I think we need to have this general discussion amongst everybody when we're ready.
I think it would be helpful too to get the amounts of for each category of the proffers.
Roberto has that.
Roberto has it
Roberto
already
has it.
done.
I don't want to be recorded.
No, Roberto's got those numbers. I mean, they're estimates at this point, but it's so much
Yeah,
per unit.
of course.
So 38 units over at Van Meter.
Yes.
Thank you. And then 79, but
Yeah, I mean, and the total is not going to change. It's just a matter of if all the units get built. For example, if all 38 units at Van Meter get built, the total the town will receive is $734,008. If Meladon goes to full build-out for their current plan, it's a little over $1.5 million.
So the trigger for Van Meter is the occupancy
Trigger
permit
for
or
all
per
of them
unit?
is the occupancy permit.
All of them.
All of them.
So
Okay.
upon each issuance of occupancy permit for an individual townhouse unit, the proffers are due back to us.
And that's $19,316 per unit in combined proffers.
So
And
we,
we do have our checks and balances to know when they get an occupancy.
the point being is that we're not likely to get the last occupancy permit on that for probably a month or two, right? So those monies aren't,
it's going to be staggered.
It's,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's not
staggered.
It'll be staggered, however, it will take us longer to get to the point of spending the money than it will for those proffers
no,
to
just
accumulate.
clarification that
Yeah.
it's trickling in.
It's gonna
But
trickle in
We expect
over a
that the
period
full
of time.
amount will be done by the end of the year, I think. so.
For the
I think
van
that's
meter?
reasonable, yeah.
For van meter, yes.
No.
Meladon,
No.
different story.
Would council like a agenda item for the August work session to go over the proffers in more detail, what's gonna come in, what the different categories are, what it could be designated
That's a good
for,
idea.
a proposal, but also an update on where we're at?
Very good idea.
I would love that, yes. I would also ask that for the discussion, especially in terms of like spending and allotting money, I would really love to have numbers in front of me. So like a memo or like a visual to go with this to allow me time to absorb it. Because throwing
Absolutely.
numbers
PowerPoint presentation?
verbally,
Don't make me do a
Well,
PowerPoint.
I'm
this
I
is
can
just
do
the-
one, but I hate them.
Death
With
by
the-
PowerPoint?
With the proffers, you know, that actually might be something that is a little bit more easier to digest in a presentation. That way our audience can also see it, but our residents know, because it's not just money that they're turning in for their development, it's resident money for everyone in the town. So,
I see
you know, it's a,
PowerPoint.
And I'll
it's a
give you
bigger
a,
say.
I think we can put together a couple of proposals where we aggregate different pools of money, and then you've got to, if you need more, because we're gonna free up ARPA money, you can always go back to the ARPA well to cover any underage. Because we don't know what the expenditure is gonna be on things, and I'm presuming that everybody's priority is getting that building stabilized at the park right now. If we're gonna go to the expensive. Sidewalks and park building. I just presumed that was everybody's priority, so that's what I'm sort of
Remind me-
gearing phase one towards.
Do we have a sunset clause on the ARPA? Remind me.
No,
No, and we've,
not,
It's already
we
been
did the,
allocated.
No, because you
Oh,
put it in.
yeah,
the-
we
did
did
the
the,
lump sum.
we did
Put it,
the
the
one-time
one-time.
mass expenditure, mass
So we've
lump
already,
sum, lump
Already
sum.
okay, we
Yeah, so it's
allocated
ours
it,
to
so-
use for whatever we want it for. So
So-
but that's why it's segregated into a separate account that takes a resolution to spend.
to recap this one agenda item, because we did hit on a lot of different points, I just want to make sure that we're clear on what we are going to bring back. So August 29th is our work session. We'll have a proposal for the real estate tax refund. That's going to be something that Bob and Roberto will work on to present to the council. August 29th, we'll have a park house proposal, including the objectives of what we're trying to get done at the building and the property, and ideally, we would have some cost estimates in there and maybe some funding options. And then the third item from this discussion is that we'll have that proffer presentation to break down who we're getting money from, when, where, the what, all of those items, so that you guys are in agreement and you understand, but our citizens can also see and be fully transparent.
Could you throw in the cost projections for the design and build portions of the sidewalk?
Yes, that's a good idea.
And
Under
then
the park proposal
under our current,
agenda item.
yeah, under that, as part of that discussion, as well as a preliminary, if you've got it, ballpark figure on the repaving of town center, which I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, I think everybody has as priority too.
There's a simple act of repaving, and then there's the,
Grind that.
Doing it right,
Right.
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna,
Bang everything.
I'm gonna push doing it the right way, which means
Okay.
grind and not just throw
Like
layer of,
mill and paved.
yeah, mill and pave,
Pave, curb.
curb and
everything.
gutter,
Yep.
all that other stuff. Well, we're gonna have a fun meeting on Thursday.
That was-
Roberto's gonna hate all of you.
Oh, say that again, Joe?
So there are no surprises.
Okay, just look over to your right when you say it.
It's up with the negative waves, always with the negative waves.
Okay.
All right, that's all I got.
Good job, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay,
You heard that?
so
I
we're closing
complimented
up.
Bob, you heard that.
Yes.
Is my mic on? Okay, just checking.
I gotta find my copies.
Okay, that ends it for the agenda items.
Move to adjourn.
Second. No, go ahead, Vice Mayor.
I second.
Okay, got a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Let's close up.
Good job, Evelyn, good job, Ken.
So that you guys, you'll get your individualized door codes in the next couple of days.